actually at short notice. It's amazing to see. But I want to send a special thanks to all the people from across Latin America and US and other parts of the world, which have come all the way here to Panama and be enlightened by all these smart people we have been able to get together. We have heard a lot about security. We heard a lot about crime. We heard a lot about different countries. And I would like to talk today about Chinese technology and what is the impact of using this, and could it have consequences for a region like Caribbean and Latin America. My background is I have a company which for more than 25 years have provided telecom operators across the world with strategic information about how this market looks and evolves. And we're also looking very much into public affair regulation, what's happening across the world in the regulatory space. And internationally, we're the leading experts in Huawei, and we have actually published a number of reports describing who is Huawei, what are they doing, and basically why it's not smart to use their equipment. I want to lift it up to a level higher now, if you could say it like that. I want to go a step further. It's quite interesting is that we live in a digital society. Just go back in the past, we used telecommunication to communicate with each other. Very simple. I called you, you called me. I sent you a message, you received a message from me. You replied on that message. Today, telecommunication, which started with 1G or 2G, for many of you, your first phone was probably a 2G phone, are now evolving into what we call the digital society. Everything is connected. If the internet breaks down, we have problems. If the banks can't get connected, they have a problem. They can't trade commodities, they can't trade shares, they can't trade bonds, they can't make financial transactions. Many countries across the world are starting to become more or less cashless society, where we use bank cards, credit cards to make these financial transactions, and all that thanks to the telecommunication. You can say the telecommunication networks is a fundament, a horizontal fundament for our society. It's also important to understand on top of that fundament, we put a lot of applications, devices, services, and those services a lot of the data from them goes into data centers, what we also call the cloud, where we have these things, and they collect data across these things. You can say the many devices we are putting on, which is everything from machines to different kind of meters we can measure. So I have friends who's just going around with a little dibidut on the arm, and it measures a lot of things in their body all the time. Goes into an app, and from the app into the cloud, collecting data. Well, cars is connected to the internet nowadays. We have so many things today which is connected. In my house, I have a scale in my bathroom which is connected to the cloud. It tells me when I stand on it, it tells me what my weight is, it tells about I've gained or lost weight. It do a lot of calculations and also tell me what the weather forecast is and what the weather is actually right now. And all the data goes through the internet because my scale is connected to the internet into a cloud, and I can access the information on my phone. My kids, my wife, exactly the same. They use the scale. And when I go on the scale, it says, oh, this weight, that must be John. So it says, hi, John. Very simple. That is the scale which costs like $30 or $40. It costs nothing. We also go from having stupid cities to what we call smart cities. And smart cities is basically everything get connected. In the future, the garbage bin was actually sell. The garbage bin is full, so now it's time to empty it. So the guy who comes in the garbage truck, he's basically don't empty those bins which is not full. And similar, we have other things which get connected. In my house, for instance, my electricity, I pay per hour. So I don't report what I spend of electricity, or they don't come and measure it. It's happening on the fly all the time. The price I pay for electricity is set on the stock exchange all the time, and basically is put in per hour. So I know exactly what the price is all the time when I use this. I can see what the prices will be in 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Decide to run the dishes, run the washing machines later if the electricity is cheaper. Same with the heating in my house. I have central heating in my house, which is delivered through pipes, another place. I don't report how much I've consumed. It's automatically setting meters on my radiators, measuring all these things. Get more and more digital. Smart cities can be built in many ways. A company like Huawei is transforming themselves from being an infrastructure telecommunication company to be a software company, a service company. And they're offering countries across the world. Here's a small city outside in Colombia, just outside Bogota, which actually got a smart city solution delivered by Huawei. And the mayor was very happy. Now we're starting building a smart city, turning our city into a smart city. And if I was a politician, it looks very good when I say I will turn our city into a smart city. I sound like a very smart politician. The question is it smart to use Chinese technology, and what is the consequences, or what can be the consequences? Electric cars. Nowadays, electric cars is also online. If someone knows someone who has a Tesla or tried to drive in a Tesla and see all the data, these cars have so many sensors, it measures everything. And the data is sent on the fly. Sometimes if you have these electric cars, you come in the morning, you turn it on, it basically says, I've been updating the software during the night, you've got new functionality in your car. Cars is collecting these data. They're sending them back to the car manufacturer. When you buy the car manufacturer says, we would like to have access to these data so we can tell if there's something wrong with your car, we can fix it remotely, and all those things, just like you know with your computer. What's interesting is that China is moving very fast in the car industry, electric wheels. They have 49 car startup companies. 49. How many of you can mention 49 car brands? Let's start with Volkswagen. Let's take BMW. Let's take Chrysler. Let's say Dodge. So that was like 4 or 5. So we just have to find 49 car brands. They have 49 car startups. The Chinese electric cars, just like Tesla and other electric cars, send data back to the car manufacturer. There's just one question. So these Chinese cars, if we buy them in Europe or in Latin America, where the software developed? It's developed in China. The data they collect, where do they send them? They send them to a cloud. Where's that cloud located? Latin America or in China? Do the Chinese have access to these data? How many data do they take? Which kind of data? If you buy a Western electric car, you share your data with the car manufacturer. In China, according to our research, there's a law saying that all the car manufacturers have to deliver all the data for all the cars to the authorities on the fly all the time. The official explanation in China is, if the Chinese government have access to these data, they can help develop and improve the security of these cars, make them more safe. It's very nice to say, we make you more safe, we get your data. No? Can you imagine that the government says you would like to have access to your email and a lot of other things, your whole digital life, said this is so you can get a more safe life. We call these Chinese cars for spies on wheels. I think that's a very good example. They also have microphones in it, and imagine 2 politicians or 2 military persons. We have a lot of people in uniform there. Imagine they was driving a car like that, sitting talking confidential. There's microphones in these cars. They're connected. I'm sorry to say it, when I'm at a meeting on embassies across the world, in general, you just deliver your mobile phone in a box and get locked in, and you're not allowed to bring it into the embassy. Another thing is we have the health industry. It's also getting digitalized. I have an app on my phone. I have access to all the journals, everything. I live in a digital society. So all the information, but in many ways, in many countries, it's so that basically the data we have about our health, it gets stored one place. And you go to your doctor. The doctor sends you to the hospital or sends you to a specialist. Specialist sends some information, all that, and all those data gets connected. Again, these data goes into the cloud. Who's delivering that cloud? It's a Chinese cloud? It's a Peruvian cloud? It's a Mexican cloud? It's an American cloud? Where those data goes? And who have access to those data? The interesting thing is that in China they have a national intelligence law which based from 2017, which basically said it very simple. If the Chinese government wants to get access to data which a Chinese company have in their possession, they have to pass it on. Full stop. That means that if you have a Chinese mobile phone and the mobile phone is collecting data about you, the Chinese government can ask for it. If you have a Chinese car, they can ask for it. If you have a health application, if the health application is delivered by a Chinese company, the Chinese government can ask for your health data. The list is long. The question is not about they're using this law to spy on you, or you. The reality is they have the option. And they can cherry pick among all the people who's collecting data. Some people's data is probably more interesting than other people's data. When we look at clouds, I just want to say, people talking these days a lot about balloons, special Chinese balloons, but I would like to talk about all the Chinese clouds you have over Latin America. One of my friends, he did this mapping, telling how many clouds the different cloud providers have in Latin America and what they're planning to do. China, Huawei have more clouds in Latin America than Microsoft, Google, AWS, etc. have combined. Okay? So like 50% of all the clouds in Latin America, they are in 12 countries, where those, which the other ones is like 3, 4, 1 country. So basically there's Chinese clouds all over, sucking up data, taking data in. Chinese companies' mentality, TikTok spied on some journalists from Forbes who did critical stories about TikTok. And just tell you about TikTok, which now been banned in quite many countries, or civil servants, that's where it starts. In Denmark, they basically said all civil servants are not allowed to have TikTok on their phones. But when you install TikTok, or if you install TikTok on your phone, it says, I would like to have access to your data. I want to have access to your pictures. I want to have access to your messages. I want to have access to that, just so that you can sit and watch some videos where people are dancing. Okay? They want to have access to your whole life, so that you can watch some videos. Okay? Reality is, when TikTok was caught in spying, looking at the data from some critical journalists who did critical stories about TikTok, TikTok claimed, sorry, we have nothing to do with this. This was just some of our employees who did something bad. Okay? Honestly. It's a company's responsibility. And honestly, I don't buy that story. China is also a country where there's a lot of censorship. We made a report. You can go to our website and request it, but we made one, You're Not Welcome Here, where we actually describe how China is blocking for all the content they dislike. So if you're critical to the Chinese system, whatever, your website is blocked. The list of companies that's blocked is long. On the other side, I would say a company like Huawei, which deliver not only telecommunications solutions, but also smart city solutions and a lot of other things, they are probably the best friend a dictator can get. It's basically the best friend a dictator can get, in that way that basically they can provide dictatorship in a box. So if I'm a dictator, or if I want to become a dictator, or I am a politician with these decisions, I can go to Huawei and they can provide me with all these technical solutions, which is just a mobile network, just a smart city solution, and so on. But at the end of the day, it's solutions which today are used to do surveillance and suppressing more than 1 billion Chinese people. Huawei actually have the best reference in the world. And we're quite many politicians here these days. We have like 250s. And basically reality is, imagine You have a president or a general secretary in China, he have no political opponents, no one criticizing him, okay? It must be fantastic as a politician to be like that. The European Union has done something. They have made the 5G toolbox, which is very interesting. Let's look at mobile networks. I can provide you much more information about that. In the US, we are then in that situation that a number of states in the US either have implemented or right now are in the process of implementing rules so that it's not legal for public institution to buy equipment from companies which is partly owned by the Chinese government. Lenovo is one of them. Lenovo. So basically, the question is, how should we react if there was an invasion in Taiwan? In Europe, we put a lot of sanctions on Russia, and they threatened to turn off the gas, and they turned off the gas. We could handle that. But today, 59% of the 5G infrastructure in Germany is Chinese. Germany is more dependent of Chinese technology than they are of Russian gas. There's a number of countries in Europe, and EU is working for it right now, which actually have got rid of these things and moving in the right direction. The EU have put the right framework for doing these things, but still there is countries in Europe where it is a huge problem. Germany is probably the biggest problem in Europe because it's 29% of our GDP and 20% of the population. We have a number of recommendations, but let me say it very simple. There's no quick fix here. And earlier you start, as cheaper it is to fix these problems. And basically, when I saw these stories about the Chinese balloons and the Chinese says, oh, it was a mistake and so on. My conclusion is that either China is producing poor balloons or they're very poor at navigating, okay? I must say there's something which actually shows that I remember when I was a kid, all this crappy toy was made in China, very cheap and broke after a few minutes. I think they're going back to that standard. That must be the standard, their balloons. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope I could give you some inspiration. I don't hope you get too scared, but the reality is living in a digital society changed a lot of things, and we have to change the way we look at technology moving forwards. So, end of the day, there's people who've seen the light. Here's a list of people which have left Huawei because they couldn't accept the ethical conditions in Huawei and the way Huawei was looking at human rights and so on. Also quite interesting, a lot of top people across Europe which have left the company. So if you want more information, go to our website. I would love to help you. We have tons of information on these things, and any questions, please let me know. Thank you. Any questions? I went over time. No? Okay, thank you.